Hey there guys, Nordic Warrior here, back with another video. So just to let you guys know, my retrospective video on Nikolai Valoev that a few of you guys have been asking for, that video is in production and I'm looking to get it out at the end of this week. In fact, that was going to be the only thing I would upload this week. As you guys know that have been following my channel for some time, I've been a little bit inactive lately. I've been very busy with work, very busy at home, and yeah, I've also been busy preparing some large projects for my other channel, so I've just not really had the time to dedicate to this channel, and in the meantime I've also been doing some live streams, so yeah, sorry for the lack of content guys, but I promise you guys, this video today where I'm just talking front of the microphone, unscripted, this is going to be a one-off. I'm going to be doing more retrospective videos and more interesting stuff and stuff like that. I'm going to be getting back on track soon. This is just a one-off. I really wanted to talk about this situation because this past weekend we had a relatively inconsequential fight that I didn't even bother to stay up for, because rarely do I stay up for fights nowadays in America. And it was between Janibek Alimkhanuly, who's the WBO champion now at middleweight, and British domestic level. I think he's actually Ghanaian, but he's based in Britain. Denzel Bentley, some domestic level guy. I knew nothing about Denzel Bentley, other than that he got stopped by Felix Cash, who's a bit of a prospect / contender. So I knew nothing about him. I wasn't really interested in the fight. I was more or less interested to just find out the result afterwards and hear how Janibek looked, and yeah, that was my mistake. I should really look at the fight myself before I comment on it, because when this fight happened, I got up the next morning, I received several messages from my subscribers telling me how, yeah, it was a disappointing performance from Janibek, but he won the fight, which is fair enough. But then when I started to look around social media, I started to watch other people's videos, and I started to read a lot of comments, I saw a lot of real extreme negativity surrounding the fight. I saw people calling it a robbery. I saw people going really overboard, saying that Janibek Alimkhanuly got completely exposed, that he's a bum, that he's no longer the boogeyman, and all this other stuff. Now, just to elaborate a little bit further on the whole boogeyman thing. Now, the only reason that people were calling Janibek the boogeyman, people seem to have forgotten this, right? But the only reason he was getting called the boogeyman is because he was set to fight, or he was mandated to fight Demetrius Andrade, right? Because Demetrius Andrade was the champion and he became mandatory. He was mandated for that fight, and Demetrius Andrade, who was calling himself the boogeyman, I believe, and his fan base out there were calling him the boogeyman, he refused to take the fight. He basically vacated his title and moved up in weight to avoid Alimkhanuly. So, as a result of that, me and several other people on here, as a joke, started calling Alimkhanuly the boogeyman. We started basically, it was a running joke that we all came up with, wasn't it, on social media. So that was where that came from. And then, of course, Top Rank and the people who were promoting Alimkhanuly, they were trying to get him more fights. They were trying to build Janibek's profile a bit. And when more and more top contenders and other champions at middleweight were refusing to fight him, they decided to use the boogeyman narrative as kind of a promotional tool, right? As they do. That's how you build a guy, really. They did it with Triple G. They did it with Andrade. They've done it with all sorts of fighters. It gets a lot of people talking about them, and it pressures certain guys into paying attention and into taking the fight. So that's where that boogeyman narrative came from. I don't think anybody was really serious in thinking that Janibek was some kind of destroyer who was just going to run through everybody Triple G style. I don't think anybody really thought that was going to happen, but I digress. Anyway, the whole boogeyman thing got really run out of proportion, so I was quite surprised to see so many people after the fight saying he's no longer the boogeyman, this, that, and the other. I'm like, come on, guys. And again, people were saying it was a robbery, that he got exposed, that Denzel Bentley destroyed him, and 7-5, 8-4 Bentley, and yeah, Janibek is a Eurobum. He's trash. He's rubbish. Boo Boo would knock him out. Charlo and Munguia and all these guys will destroy him. And then I decided, you know what, I'm going to watch the fight, right? So I decided to sit down, watch the fight. I didn't see the first round. I saw like the second. The video I had, it was in HD, but I only saw the second round through to the last round. So I missed the first round, whatever. But what I saw from the fight, and I watched it very carefully, and it really confirmed to me something that I've been talking about on here for a long, long time. I've been talking about this for years. Boxing fans, particularly boxing fans in the UK and in America, are extremely, and I mean extremely, reactionary. They're extremely emotional and immature, and they don't really seem to get it, do they? Like when you're watching a fight, all you have to do is sit and watch what's happening in the fight and take it at face value, right? What you don't do is think about all the narratives and all the hyperbole and blow it all out of proportion. Because what I saw from that fight, now, was it the performance we were expecting to see from Janibek? No. Was it? Was Denzel Bentley the best guy on Janibek's resume? Like, is Denzel Bentley one of the best fighters in the division? No. Was it a fight of consequence? No. But what I saw in the fight is I saw a guy, I'm talking about Janibek, who was in complete control. I saw a guy fighting on cruise control. I saw a guy fighting who never got out of second gear. And I thought he won the vast majority of the rounds clearly. What I saw from Denzel Bentley, on the other hand, was I saw a guy who was completely out of his depth. I saw a guy who wasn't really taking any risks, who was playing it safe, who was utilising his reach on the outside, and doing the bare minimum to just get through rounds without taking much punishment, and occasionally maybe throwing a shot, maybe landing a low blow or a right hand from distance or something, but I never saw much ambition for him. Yeah, he went all out in the closing seconds of the fight when it was basically a foregone conclusion that it was going to go the distance. But other than that, I saw nothing from Denzel Bentley that suggests to me that he was really there to win. He seemed to me like the perpetual opponent. That's what he looked like to me. He was there to just go the rounds and go 12 rounds, and it seemed to me like Janibek was happy with that. You know, Janibek looked comfortable to me to just go 12 rounds, to get the rounds in, to shake off the inexperience of not having gone 12 rounds before in a fight, because he's been blowing guys away early. So it made sense for him against a guy who's a relatively safe opponent, someone who's not really a threat to him, to just take it easy and go 12 rounds. That's what I saw in there. Now, could he have potentially stopped Denzel Bentley? Maybe. But it doesn't really matter, does it? Because if you've got a guy in there who's negative, a guy in there who isn't really coming to win and isn't really a threat to you, then you don't really have anything to worry about, do you? Particularly if you're the guy who's the A side, and you know, the fight was on a top ranked show. He was pretty much guaranteed to win. I mean, if it was close, they weren't giving Denzel Bentley the decision, were they? So, I mean, there was no politics going against Janibek, were they? He was the A side. So it looked to me like Janibek knew what the fight was. Denzel Bentley understood his role, and it was essentially just a sparring session. That's what I saw in there. People are saying it was a great performance from Denzel Bentley, and that he went in there and dominated and put on a masterclass. I don't know what you guys are looking at. That was no masterclass. Denzel Bentley, to me, all he did in that fight was survive. That's all I saw. And he was getting hit all night. Like, obviously he wasn't getting hit cleanly enough to be stopped, but again, Janibek was throwing that looping left hand, landing it nearly every time he threw it. Denzel Bentley barely landed anything the whole fight. I don't know what you guys are looking at, man. And like I said, guys are so reactionary. They base their entire opinions on fighters on one fight. Their entire opinions on fighters is always based on the last fight. You know, a guy is the greatest thing they've ever seen. He's the boogeyman. And then he loses a fight or struggles in a fight or goes a distance or doesn't look great, you know, doesn't look as explosive as usual. And he's a complete bum. He's a hype job. Everybody's going to beat him. Well, I'll tell you right now, and Fight Film was talking about this earlier in his video. If you guys are so confident in this Janibek guy, instead of coming in our comment sections and calling him a hype job and saying he was exposed, All you have to do is message Demetrius Andrade, message Triple G, message Jaime Munguia, right? Message Adames or Charlo or whoever. Message all of these guys and tell them, you want an easy title? Fight Janibek. Fight this guy, this Euro bum. You know, this Kazakh bum, you know, just fight that guy. He just struggled with Denzel Bentley. Okay, he got a gift against Denzel Bentley, who's a domestic level fighter, right? So, yeah, let's make the fight. Let's see them. That's all you need to do. You don't need to harass us and bitch and moan at us and make excuses for why your guy didn't fight him. All you got to do is message your guy and convince him to take the fight, because I'm telling you right now, that performance that you saw from Janibek. Now, I'm not saying Janibek is some great fighter. I've never seen him as a great fighter, but that performance is not what you're going to get if he gets a genuine fight of consequence. We've seen this so many times in boxing. How many times have we seen a fighter who puts on a lackluster performance, goes 12 rounds, doesn't look great, just gets the round in, then when they have a genuine fight of consequence, all of a sudden they look great, they look fantastic, they put on a career best performance. We've seen it time and time again in the sport, guys. Okay, like Janibek is a 13-0 prospect essentially. I mean, I know he's a champion now, but in terms of experience, he just doesn't have it compared to some of these guys. So going 12 rounds against a guy like Denzel Bentley isn't the end of the world. It doesn't mean that this guy can't fight, okay? I mean, I would have thought that knowledgeable, hardcore boxing fans would have been a bit more, would have had more boxing sensibilities than that, and would have been a bit less reactionary. So I think this guy's dangerous. I genuinely do. I think that this performance is gonna trick a lot of people into thinking that this guy isn't anything good, you know, and it's gonna make people think he's easy pickings. But I'm telling you right now, do not be surprised if this guy goes ahead and upsets a few of these guys at middleweight. Wouldn't surprise me one bit. I'm not saying he definitely will, but I mean, just when you're talking about these fights, don't be so reactionary, okay? Don't forget everything that you knew about a fighter just because they didn't look great one time, okay? So that's all I gotta say. I think this situation's quite embarrassing. I really do. So many people expose themselves as being reactionary, emotional, immature, and not having a clue what they're talking about, really. Not really understanding the sport. So let me know what you guys think. Thanks for watching, and yeah, God bless.